Welcome to the Learn True Health podcast. I'm your host, Ashley James. This is episode 103. My guest today is truly an inspiration. Dawson Church, PhD, is an award-winning author whose best-selling book, The Genie in Your Genes, has been hailed by reviewers as a breakthrough in our understanding of the link between emotions and genetics. He founded the National Institute for Integrative Healthcare to study and implement promising evidence-based psychological and medical techniques. His groundbreaking research has been published in prestigious scientific journals. He's the editor of Energy Psychology Theory, Research, and Treatment, a peer-reviewed professional journal. He's also a blogger for the Huffington Post. He's written some really interesting articles there. And the list goes on and on. Absolutely the most amazing man. And what happened was, in our interview, we were actually doing our pre-interview, and he had the most beautiful explanation to answer a question of mine. And I just so happened to have an intuition to hit record during our pre-interview session. So I'm going to jump right in and let you in on a bit of our pre-interview session and how that led into our interview. Yeah, what are you most passionate about? So if we were to pick a specific topic, for example, what is the pain that we're going to solve today? So the listener has a certain pain point. What is it? What are we going to bring to them?
I think that there are two things. One is the physiological changes that happen when we shift our psycho-spiritual states. So for a long time, there's been a lot of focus on studying the kinds of shifts people experience when they meditate, when they tap, do EFT, acupuncture, acupressure. And what we're now doing is the research to show that there's not just a profound psychological shift, but that especially when you have emotional clearing of past trauma, that there is a profound physiological shift. And so the main study I'm focusing on right now was published last November, and it showed that after a 1-hour EFT session, there are 72 genes that are significantly differently expressed. So what that gene expression is, the kinds of genes that are expressed, and what it's telling us about the effect of emotional trauma release, of psychological change, of stress reduction on our bodies, and how pervasive it is. So that's really really I think the big news. And it's also, I think that the second part of that is that it's also shifting our whole physiological homeostasis. And so the way we are is different. We feel better. We feel better physically. We feel better emotionally. And it's leading us to new kinds of physiological states. And when we practice those for a while, it changes our set points. We're finding, for example, that people's set points for cortisol are dropping after they start to implement either a good meditation program or EFT. That the levels of, so what happens is when you reduce the consumption of the body of the precursors that are required for building stress proteins, then all those precursors are freed up, and we then begin to build a whole set of healthy proteins. And so there's this teeter-totter effect, the seesaw effect. When you reduce stress and you reduce the production of all those stress hormones, all of the precursors you have tied up in stress hormone production get liberated, become bioavailable for people to produce healthy hormones. So there's this shift, and done often enough, done daily, it changes our baseline. And so we age much less, much more slowly. We feel much better physiologically and as well as psychologically. Every part, when you change in both those directions together, sleep improves, digestion improves, your sex life improves, your regeneration improves, wound healing speeds up, all kinds of benefits occur. So how pervasive this is when done long term. So I think that those are two takeaways that have people leave with.
Well, what I gotta say is that I normally don't record my pre-interview sessions, but I had a massive intuition to hit the record button. And so, listeners, I have decided that I'm letting the listeners in on our little pre-interview session. I'm just gonna publish that. I pulled. You know what? My husband's so funny. He does this thing where he mimics he puts his hand on my back and he pretends as though he's pulling a string. And that's his signal for like, oh, just ask Ashley a question and she'll go on and on and on. You just pull the string, right? So I just pulled your string and you just went. It was beautiful what you said, and that's exactly what we're going to talk about here in our interview today. Dawson Church, it's amazing to have you on the show. I'm going to make sure that I give you a proper introduction. I'll splice that in at the beginning, but let's just get started with our interview. Thank you so much. So we're going to be talking about essentially the science and how meditation and other modalities like EFT, and we'll get it for those who don't know what EFT is. We'll definitely, I want to ask you about that. But basically these what we would think were more spiritual practices or more, some people go, ooh, that's granola woo-woo stuff or that's hippie stuff. You're basically saying that there is science that proves that we, by doing these things like meditation or by do emotional work and releasing emotional trauma from the past, that we have genes shifting and expressing in new ways. So you can see the body healing after we do these practices.
That's exactly right. And Ashley, we've always known the opposite. We've always known that stress, emotional trauma, especially childhood trauma, produces real adverse physiological change later on. The most famous study was done in the 1990s. It's called the ACE, or Adverse Childhood Experiences Study. And these were people who had one of a range of adverse childhood experiences, like their parents got divorced, one parent was mentally ill, they had an addictive parent, there was violence in the home. These are all examples of traumas. And when we experience a bad thing and we're 45 years old or 25 years old, we have coping abilities. If somebody, say, is bullying us, we can walk away. If somebody is threatening us, we have the ability to defend ourselves. We can go into fight or flight. When you're 2 years old, when you're 4 years old, and that person, the perpetrator, is your caregiver, you're trapped. You can't do anything about it. And so these kinds of traumas aren't just laid out in the brain as ideas, as experiences. They're laid down literally neurologically as wiring in the parts of the brain that have to do with memory and learning. We learn that the world is an unsafe place at that basic physiological level. And so all our lives we're on high alert. And so it's adaptive for us. It's useful for us. It keeps us alive to be alert for the bad stuff in our surroundings, because there are people there who are wounding us, and there are family members. So that's when that happens to people early in life. What then results, we know from the ACE study, is when they are 45 years old, 55 years old, 60 years old, 70 years old, they have much higher rates of disease. And the ACE study looked at the 10 biggest killers of adults: cancer, heart disease, high blood pressure, hepatitis, diabetes, and so on, and found that not only did people who'd been abused as children or had adverse experiences as children have more of those diseases, but the more adverse experiences they had, the worse they were as adults. And these weren't people who were 70 or 80 years old. These were people in their 50s. So in their 50s now, they're showing up in hospital with more cancer, more heart disease, more diabetes, more high blood pressure, more of all of these physical diseases, but they had their roots in childhood experiences. So this has been known for many, many, many years. And doctors know, nurses know, that the stressed patient is much more prone to disease. In one study of a kind of healing protein called a cytokine, these researchers at Ohio State University found that married couples who were mean to each other, they had levels of cytokines, healing proteins, that were depressed by up to 40%. So a massive drop of 40% in your healing ability in your immune system when you're in a miserable relationship. And so we've known for a long time that emotion affects our physiology. But what we haven't known in the medical profession, haven't known in psychology, is the opposite end of the equation. How do you then counteract those negative childhood experiences? How do you counteract adult negative experiences? For example, people who are in combat, over 2.5 million Americans have now gone through Afghanistan and Iraq, been exposed to combat, and add up those who've got PTSD from the recent wars with the Vietnam veterans, and you have over 1 million Americans with PTSD as a result of these recent conflicts. And so you have this whole group, and you have these people who are often many people who had adverse childhood experiences. You have all of this suffering, and that it's showing up as disease. So what we haven't had up till very, very recently is the tools and the knowledge of how to eliminate those kinds of emotional wounds. And the wonderful news is now we do. We actually, the experimental evidence is just piling up right now of the effects of the two main things I teach are meditation and emotional freedom techniques, or EFT. And the evidence for those is just starting to come in, and we're tracking what happens in people's bodies when they learn those stress reduction techniques. And the results are absolutely stunning. If this was a drug trial by a pharmaceutical company, this would be headline news, and it would be a new wonder drug. It's capable of changing so many things. So what I'd like to share with you and everyone on the show is how you can use these simple techniques to literally go and clear all the emotional wounding from your past, and then restore your body's homeostasis. We now know how to fix a lot of that emotional wounding.
Absolutely. Definitely want you to share that with us. For those who don't know what EFT is, or emotional freedom technique, what is it?
Emotional freedom techniques is a combination of some really old and well-studied psychotherapy techniques like cognitive therapy and exposure therapy. And these have been around for 40, 50 years, and they've got thousands of studies behind them, and they're really effective. And so, but they're talk therapy, essentially. And talk therapy is the right kind of talk therapy is good. What we find, though, is with EFT, we add in acupressure, pressure on acupuncture points, and people tap on these points. So there are 12 points we recommend people use in EFT, and they rub these points or tap on these points. And so while they're doing these simple routines, affirmation routines, cognitive shift routines from cognitive therapy, they then also do these acupressure points themselves. They tap on their own acupressure points, and the results of the studies that I'll share later in the program show that this combination of addressing both the mind and our beliefs and our experiences cognitively, our thinking, along with addressing our body somatically through the stimulation of acupuncture points with our fingertips, has an enormously powerful effect on healing those events. I'll just give you one story from my book, The EFT Manual, about how this works. There was a Vietnam veteran who'd been plagued for decades by a particularly bad memory from the Vietnam War. And he came into therapy, got EFT, got 6 sessions of EFT from a researcher at Marshall University Medical School. Her name was Linda Jaranilla, and she's actually done a study now of EFT. But this particular veteran, whose story I tell in the EFT manual, there was one pivotal event from Vietnam that haunted him. He had flashbacks, he had nightmares, and his best friend one day in Vietnam, his best friend had been killed by a sniper. And the day his friend was killed, they were out on patrol. They went on patrol every day. So they had this routine. They'd get up, they'd leave the base, they'd go on patrol, come back. Every day they did their patrol safely. But this particular veteran was always on the right, and his buddy was always on the left. But that particular day when his buddy got killed, they switched positions. And so he'd had this story playing in his head for close to 40 years that he took the bullet meant for me. And so he had what's called survivor's guilt. And he had a lot of medical problems, besides psychological problems, and high levels of PTSD relative to that one memory. But as he told Dr. Geronilla the story, as he tapped, now, he has told the story many times before. He's told the story in his head many times before. He's told the story in his mind in nightmares and flashbacks many times before. But now he does that same routine, except now he's tapping. He's using EFT. So he's doing these acupressure points while he's telling the story. And he had this huge epiphany. And he said to his therapist, he said, I just realized just the way I wanted to die for him, he would have wanted to die for me. And he had complete peace over the death of his friend at that point, from that point on. So this thing that had triggered him so much for so many years suddenly was no longer a factor in his awareness. In EFT research, when we test people 6 months later or a year later, we find that all of that psychological stress is just gone. And EFT breaks the association. It's the acupressure part of EFT that breaks the association between having the bad memory and our bodies going into fight or flight. So that's in a nutshell what EFT is and what it does.
I'm so moved by that. I don't know what it is lately, but I hear these testimonials and these stories of healing, and I can't help but cry. It's so amazing. I love the fact that we can take our health into our own hands and that we can heal wounds from the past. My background is I'm a master practitioner and trainer of neurolinguistic programming, timeline therapy, and hypnosis. And timeline therapy, I've never studied EFT, although I know about it. But timeline therapy, which is similar except without tapping, is similar in that the person gets to the reviews the root cause memory and then comes to this epiphany, and then creates a healing. And because they're the ones learning, it's like you're not doing anything to them, they're the ones learning. What I love about EFT is that you are utilizing the body to let it go, because we store negative emotions in the body, right, in our neurology, holographically. And so you're using something that is thousands of years old, these meridian points, to help the body, but it's also a break state, and it also allows you to let it go on many levels, so emotionally, mentally, and physically at the same time. I actually had a bias against EFT. I sort of put it in that because I'm kind of one of those really weird health nuts where I'm very into everything holistic, but it has to be proven to me first. And I kind of didn't believe in it until my friend came back from an EFT training, and she said, well, I've got this great technique. Do you have anyone? And she knew the answer. I'm like, do you have anyone that you're angry with? And I'm like, yes, there's someone I'm angry with. And I can't stop being angry at this person. It was like I was holding on to for like 2 years, this one person. And no matter what, I couldn't do my own techniques on myself. I was too angry about it. And she's like, okay, great. So I want you to go ahead. And she starts tapping and having me breathe and talk. And I felt the entire thing shift. And it was really weird because I felt like a Novocaine had taken over, and I felt a numbness where the anger used to be. And I, for days, tried to get angry at that person, and I couldn't. And what I noticed is that I actually stopped thinking about that person altogether. And then the people who knew, that were there at the time, that saw this happen, that all know the story, they kept saying, so have you thought about, can you think about that guy? Can you feel it? And days later, weeks later, and here it is months later. And I anytime I think of him, I just wish him well. And I cannot get the anger back. So I'm like, okay, EFT works. I get it.
And it's that sort of subjective experience is one you can't argue with. When I do grand rounds sometimes, so I have a room full of psychologists, so I have a room full of nurses, and I'm presenting EFT. And what I do is I talk about the research for a few moments, because the research is powerful and impressive. There are over 100 studies showing that EFT works for anxiety, depression, PTSD, and so on. But I dwell on the research only as preamble. What I then do is I have them tap, because once they've done EFT for themselves one time, they get it in their bodies. And if I were to have a debate about the research with them, or if I had a debate 10 years ago before there was any research, we would have all been in our heads arguing about whether or not this was a fact. When you feel it, though, in your body and somatically, you feel the shift, then the argument's over. People feel themselves changing. Not only that, we know now from research that when you feel good like that, actually, when you're no longer obsessing, when you're no longer catastrophizing, when you're no longer having those mental thoughts that are producing those feelings of distress in your body, when this is happening for you, that many biochemical changes are happening in your brain and your nervous system. Typically, your levels of dopamine and serotonin are regulating. Stress hormones like adrenaline and cortisol are going down. Healing hormones like DHEA are going up. All of these positive effects are happening inside your body. And so what you feel as a subject of change is actually measurable biochemically. And you can't argue with that. You just can't argue when you feel better that way. Then it's not like, let's debate this. It's like, let's just do more of this and clean all the old stuff up. Why have one event? Why allow one single thing in your life to bother you still? Why carry around one piece of resentment, one piece of anger, a single piece of suffering? Let it all go. Just tap it all away. And we guide people in our live workshops, especially, to work systematically, to think about everything that's happened in your life. If there's any degree of emotional charge around it, let it go. We know that if you don't do that, you'll be one of those people that when you're 57 years old, as the average person was in the ACE study, that you're going to have a heightened risk of disease. And why do that to your beautiful body? Why compromise your health by holding on to that stuff? Let it go. It's doing you no good. Now, again, people might have reasons for holding onto it, and we can get into those later in the program, because some people might, for example, have been abused by somebody, and we may have a script saying, well, if I let go of my anger toward my abusive mother, then I'll be letting her off the hook. I was just reading one case study from a practitioner yesterday, where this was their argument that if I forgive my mother, I'll be making what she did to me okay, and it was so not okay. But even those scripts, we can look at those scripts, and that in psychology that's called secondary gain. I get something from being sick, and if you delve below the surface, you find often we're hanging on to those old things for secondary gain. But so go and clean up all of those events, all of those disappointments, all of those life circumstances that have upset you. And then that's what we call it emotional freedom. You watch people's layers just fall away, and then they get happy. They wake up happy. They are happy. They treat their families differently. They view their jobs differently. They see the world differently. They treat their bodies a whole lot better. It's absolutely wonderful what happens when you claim this type of emotional freedom.
Now, you talked about that there were genes expressing differently. What do these genes do? Or is it the same genes for everyone, or are they just noticing that it's different genes? Or tell us more about that, and what do these genes do?
Well, in the main book I've written two major books. One is called The Genie in Your Genes, and it's all about the science of epigenetics, and especially how our emotions and our spiritual states affect our genome. And the other major book is the EFT manual, which is like the official textbook for how to do EFT. And those are the two books I talk about most often. I've written a bunch of other books, but those are the ones I really focus on. So in The Genie in Your Genes, we look at the part of the genome that's affected by influences outside of the cell. So some of your genes are fixed. Your gene, like if I have gray eyes, I'm 6'5" tall. I'll never have green eyes. I'll never be 5'2". There are genes that code for things that are fixed characteristics. So all of those genes are fixed. But that fixed part of the genome is maybe 15% of the genome. The other 85% of the genome is triggered by all kinds of things epigenetically. So there are these factors outside the genome that are turning genes on and off. Just a very simple example, I had some wonderful butternut squash for lunch. And so when I ate that food, a whole sequence of things happened in my body, and my my stomach is producing hydrochloric acid and other digestive juices to digest the butternut squash. And so that's something that happened outside of the cell that's triggering the production of certain chemicals in your body. But sleep chemicals, wake chemicals, digestion chemicals, all those things are interesting. They're mildly interesting to us, and we want them to work well. But what is the most fascinating thing for me is stress chemicals. And if I get stressed, my digestion shuts down. That's why you have a queasy feeling in your stomach when you're upset, why you may not sleep when you're upset, because it's interfering with the neurochemistry of sleep. It's interfering with reproduction. Many of these veterans who come in and see us, they're on Viagra, or they're on some other kind of erectile dysfunction drug because their sexual function is impaired. Women are impaired sexually as well as men if they're stressed. So all of these things, digestion, reproduction, respiration, all of these things are compromised if we're stressed, because stress is the prime thing that we have to be able to do to survive. And so 100,000 years ago, 40 million years ago, those early organisms had to be able to have an effective response to danger. And so that little mammal, early mammal, 10 million years ago, if there was a predator, had to be able to get out of the way. Fight or flight was essential to survival. When you're being chased by a dinosaur, then digestion doesn't matter. Immunity doesn't matter. Reproduction doesn't matter. None of this matters. All that matters is survival. So when our survival instincts are triggered, when we're in fight or flight, when those genes are expressed, when the genes that code for cortisol and adrenaline are expressed, that then preempts everything else. I used to say that trumps everything else, but I've now eliminated that word from my vocabulary. That preempts everything else, and we now then go into fight or flight. We then have all of our other physiological functions are subordinate to that one big urgent need to survive. If we survive, sure, later on we can digest, we can have our immune system working, we can do all the other things that the living beings do. But when your stress chemicals are engaged, it preempts everything else that's going on in your body. And that kind of effect happens whether there's a real predator, whether you're really running from a tiger, or whether you're thinking about a bad thing. When you would think about that person who bothered you, then your body can't tell that there isn't a real problem that's an objective threat to your survival. So it's producing cortisol, it's producing adrenaline, all the same biochemistry, all the same internal machinery of stress is kicking on, just as though there were really a predator in the room. And so you're having that digestion shut down, you're having that cognitive impairment. All these things are happening when the stress response is kicked in. So that's why these stress biochemicals are so incredibly powerful, because they're at the top of the cascade of a whole bunch of biological effects. And when you learn to calm yourself, when you're not upset, when you're not all worried, when you're able to release all that early childhood programming, then suddenly all of those other biological functions start to improve as well. So veterans, one common thing veterans say after they have their first EFT session, they say things like, gee, I went back home for my first session and I got my first good night's sleep since I got back from deployment in Iraq in 2004, because suddenly they're no longer on high alert. They begin to digest better. All these things are affected by that one thing, and that's stress.
Amazing. And so using something like the freedom, the tapping, emotional freedom technique, and meditation, obviously, is able to turn off the stress response, getting to the root cause, because that's what's triggering the holding on to those negative emotions from the past, the limiting decisions from the past, and those traumatic memories that they keep triggering, they keep coming back to the surface, and so they keep triggering the stress response. So we want to get to the root cause, which is all what holistic medicine is all about, is getting to the root cause. And also holistic medicine is about understanding that mental body, emotional body, spiritual body, and physical body are interconnected, and we have to address a health issue on all levels, not just one. If we just affect the physical body, just give the physical body drugs or the physical body supplements, you're still going to have years of that emotional issue going on, or the mental mindset. The mindset being in a negative spot, which is still going to trigger the physical stress response. And so you can have something that's completely mental or completely emotional, but it's going to affect us on the physical level. So in order to heal, we have to heal on all levels. You teach meditation as well. Tell us a bit about that. Is it a specific technique, or does it include EFT? How do you recommend that people meditate for this type of healing?
Well, I am a failed bad meditator. Bad meditator, bad. That's me. I'm a bad meditator. It's like I went to a meditation class when I was 15 years old, and I went into an ashram when I was in my mid-teens and spent a few years there. And the meditation teacher said, "Oh, meditation's easy. There are just a few simple steps. Okay, step 1. Quiet your mind." And I thought, quiet my mind? I've never been able to quiet my mind. My mind is not just one conversation. It is a chattering group of conflicting subpersonalities that are just like a big drunk, rowdy party. It's like, how do you quiet your mind? And when I was 30 years old and 50 years old, I mean, I was the same. I was just, there's all the stuff going on there, and I've never been able to quiet my mind. So, what I do is in my live workshops, I ask people 2 embarrassing questions. One is, have you ever taken a meditation workshop or read a book on how to meditate? Everyone raises their hands. Everyone's read a book or done a workshop and an online course or something on how to meditate. Then I say, who here has an actual active daily meditation practice? And about maybe 10% of the hands go up, and everyone else looks at the floor. Like I would have done a while back, because it's and meditation is just bloody hard. I remember being on a panel with Deepak Chopra and Norm Shealy and Gabriel Cousins and all these wonderful people at the Whole Life Expo many years ago, like maybe around 2000, and we were talking about meditation in this panel, and we were saying, how long did it take you to learn to meditate? And Deepak was saying, it took me 5 years to learn to meditate well. And Gabriel Cousins was saying, it took me 7 or 8 years. And then like me, I never really learned to meditate all that well after all these years. So most people have a very, very hard time meditating. And so what I had a conversation with Joe Dispenza at a conference in 2008. And we were talking about, EFT works well. We know that we know mindfulness works well. We know heart math is great. We know that meditation is powerful. And what if you were to combine these together? So I began to combine them together, and I found that when you combine biofeedback, neurofeedback, combine that with tapping, with heart math, with heart coherence, with mindfulness, and put it all into a simple package, that it's really powerful, and that you can dispense with all of the spiritual and religious trappings of meditation, and teach it as a physiological practice. And so I developed this technique called eco-meditation, and it's just dead simple. There are 7 steps to it, and they're steps as simple as relax your tongue. That's one of the steps you do in eco-meditation. Just relax your tongue. Turns out, when you relax your tongue, there's a nerve in the root of your tongue called the hypoglossal nerve that goes into a nerve plexus in the back of your skull, part of the vagus nerve. And when you relax your tongue, it sends a signal through the whole of the vagus nerve, which goes all throughout your body, hugely important nerve, that you're safe. And so you relax your tongue, you can't get mad, you can't get upset, you can't get resentful. All of that negative emotion goes away if you just relax your tongue. So we know that if you relax your tongue, you relax. Then I have you breathe in a certain way. Just breathe 6 seconds per in-breath, 6 seconds per out-breath. That puts you into heart coherence immediately. And there are other seven little physiological instructions like this, and it's absolutely amazing. I'll take a whole room full of people, have them do these 7 simple things, and suddenly they're deep in meditation, even the ones that couldn't meditate at all before. So it's really exciting to have found this simple, physiologically based method of meditation that even bad meditators like me are able to do.
I love that you said physiologically based meditation, because it's funny, I have a lot of great listeners, and then I get a few emails once in a while going, can you stop talking about that Hocus Pocus meditation stuff? Like, I mean, 1 or 2 listeners, and I know there's a bunch of listeners that love it and that have done meditation, but there is a section, a percentage of listeners who either they feel it might be Hocus Pocus, or maybe it's there's no science behind it, or it goes against the religion because maybe they've been told that it's somehow not religious to do it. So it's interesting, the opinions that come out about meditation. And so you're not saying, hey, this isn't a religious thing. We're not going to India and we're not being yogis. We're doing a series of steps, like relax your tongue and breathe and tap meridians. And then I'm going to, you can show that stress levels go down, that genes express differently, that cortisol goes down, a stress hormone. Like, you can show physiological changes are taking place. I love that.
Yeah, and there are lots of studies of mindfulness meditation. I don't know how many there are, but there's certainly in the hundreds. I've now begun to study eco-meditation. We have done it with several groups, and then looked at their anxiety and depression, and we find their PTSD improves, their anxiety improves a lot, their depression improves a lot, their general psychological well-being improves. But we're now starting to look at their physiology. Like, I did a workshop at Esalen Institute, which is a big teaching institution in California, last year, and we looked at their levels of cortisol, which is your main stress hormone. And it's a master hormone which controls the production of many different genes, hormones, other hormones are all affected by cortisol. Cortisol goes up, it triggers a whole cascade of changes in the body. So we looked at cortisol. We also looked at the levels of people's salivary immunoglobulin A, or SIG-A, because SIG-A is an immune factor in all your mucous membranes. And so we have skin covering our body, and our skin is our first line of defense against bacteria, toxins, viruses, and so on. But there are parts of our body not covered by skin. Our eyes are not covered by skin. Our noses, when we breathe in the air, all of these things are invading our body through our sinuses, our mouths, when we eat food. So SIG-A is this immune factor that is in all your mucous membranes to help ward off those kinds of pathogens. And so if you have high levels of SIG-A, your immune system is functioning at peak, it's killing all of those nasty bugs. If you have low levels of SIG-A, you have low levels of immunity, and you're much more likely to get the cold, get a flu, get an infection, have something from the outside invade and take root in your body. And so we looked at their levels of SIG-A, and we found that there were drastic changes. Their levels of cortisol dropped by more than 20%. Their levels of SIG-A rose by more than 20%. So this is the kind of change you want to see. You want to see not only stress hormones going down, but you want to see good biological changes, biochemical changes happening, and those kinds of things go up. So we're now measuring things like heart rate, blood pressure, and heart coherence, and SIG-A and cortisol, and we're beginning to build up a picture of what happens during eco-meditation, and it's just wonderful. People learn the simple meditation technique, and in just 2 days, their cortisol's way down, their SIG-A is way up, their resting heart rate's down, their heart coherence is improved. All these things, if you could package this in a pill, it would be a wonder drug. It would be malpractice to fail to prescribe it. And yet it's just a simple set of physiological techniques. So when you asked that at the start of the hour, what I was really excited about, and that's what I'm so excited about now that we're showing that these really simple things like tapping, like eco meditation, are affecting us at the level of our biology and producing all of these health effects.
Now you're calling it eco meditation?
Just a name I came up with, ECO. And in fact, if anyone wants to learn it, I'll give you a link at the end of the show where you can download the full instructions for free. It's a simple technique, but I just call it eco meditation to distinguish it from mindfulness meditation. Or there are many different kinds of meditation techniques, and this is just, it fits on a page. It's so dead simple, and again, it's just totally physiological. There's no belief, no thought required. You don't still your mind, which most people can't do anyway. And so, yeah, eco meditation.
I love it. This is so exciting. Definitely, listeners, look for the link in the show notes of today's podcast. Now, let's move on to EFT. You said you were going to teach us some EFT, which, without being able to see you, is going to be a little bit difficult. But what can we do right now using EFT? Is there anything we could learn right now?
Yeah, it's tricky to do it without seeing it because when you are watching someone doing EFT and following along, you can see where the acupressure points are. But even without doing that, I can have us tap a couple of them and feel a difference. So if you want to just get a sense of, this isn't EFT, this is just a little bit of acupoint tapping. But to give you a sense of it, just think about something in the last 2 weeks that's bothered you, that was an event. So to start, middle, and end, it lasted 5 minutes or less, and you can name it. If it was a little mini movie that lasted a few minutes, you can give it a title. So just think of something that happened in the last few days, last couple of weeks, that made your emotions rise, that made you feel angry or upset or disappointed or guilty or fearful or whatever it might be. So think of a thing right now that made you upset.
Okay.
Now, give it a number from 0 to 10, with 0 being no emotion and 10 being maximum emotion. So if you're absolutely incandescently angry, you're a 10. If you're calm, you're a 0. Give it a number from 0 to 10.
3.5.
3.5, okay. So everyone listening, write down your number. Write down your first number. And then give your movie a title. So actually, if you were to give your mini movie a title, what would it be?
The thing that bugged me this morning.
The thing that bugged me this morning. Good, that's fine. And so you have a title now. You have a number, 3.5. And also, where do you feel that 3.5 in your body?
My stomach and solar plexus.
Solar plexus, stomach. Okay, so again, everyone listening, write down where you feel in your body, what your number is, and the title of your movie. And we'll just call yours this morning to abbreviate a little bit, okay? So now tap with your fingertips of either hand on the fleshy outside of the other hand. We call this the karate chop point in EFT because that's where you deliver a karate chop. So that's this little spot that we use often in EFT, and tap there with the fingertips of the other hand. And while you're tapping there, say out loud, even though this thing happened.
Even though this thing happened.
This morning.
This morning.
I love and accept myself.
I love and accept myself.
I am me.
I am me.
I am safe.
I am safe.
Even though
this
thing happened this morning.
This thing happened this morning.
Take a couple of fingertips, tap right above on the bridge of your nose. I am me and I am safe.
I am me and I am safe.
And this thing happened this morning.
And this thing happened this morning.
Okay, I have to find out what's happening for you, Ashley.
I just somewhere when I first started giggling and I was tapping the karate chop point on the other hand. It took me a while to figure out what you meant, but you meant like the side of your hand that you would use to karate chop with, right? Like
Yes.
the opposite of the thumb,
Yes.
below the pinky finger on the
Yes.
side. And so I was tapping that. And then as I was saying the affirmation, I got a tickles in my stomach. And my stomach started, like, the organ, my stomach started tickling. And then I couldn't stop laughing. And then when you had me switch to my nose, it's when it just was like outrageous tickles. And I think when I start thinking about this morning, I just can't stop feeling like I'm going to burst into laughter.
So you're probably on a 3.5 anymore.
No. Oh my gosh. It's uncontrollable laughter I feel in me right now.
I'm so glad. That's better than that not in your stomach.
Wow. So that's EFT.
That's tapping on acupressure points, and we use different points in EFT, but those are a couple of the points that you can use. And what that does is you're thinking about the bad thing, you're thinking about the thing that annoyed you, and so what's going on is that the memory centers of your brain are sending a signal to the emotional centers to get pissed off. So you've got this memory going on in the memory part of your brain, you've got the emotion rising in your emotional part of your brain, the midbrain, and so that's your state when you start tapping. When you tap, that sends a signal to your emotional brain that you're okay, because if you weren't okay, if you were, say, sliding down a ravine, if you were being chased by a barking dog with huge big fangs, you wouldn't be tapping. So if you tap, that just gives your body this reassuring signal. It's kind of like fidgeting or just movement. It's movement, but it's peaceful movement. It's secure movement. So now your emotional brain is getting two completely contradictory signals. There's this one memory saying get upset, and then the tapping saying you're fine. No reason to get upset at all. And it realizes when it gets these two conflicting signals that the somatic signal, the physical signal, is the one to pay attention to. It's getting the mental signal as well, but somatic safety usually is prioritized by the emotional brain over mental signals. So we can think things. That's why when we're upset, we try and say, well, we shouldn't be upset. Don't be upset. Like, I mean, when my cat freaks out, a dog comes into the yard, and the cat freaks out. I can explain to the cat very coherent. I can give the cat a really convincing lecture on why the dog is friendly, it shouldn't be upset, blah, 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 and the cat stays freaked out. If there's a baby crying, I can tell the baby, I can go up to the baby's crib and say, baby, let me give you 8 good reasons why you shouldn't be crying. There's a funny scene in the Sherlock series where Sherlock Holmes is lecturing and telling this client in the chair that there's no reason to be upset. And then the camera pans around and it's a baby, he's babysitting, and the baby just keeps on crying. So it's like that part of our brain, the emotional brain, has no language, and trying to talk to it logically doesn't work, but it can tell tapping and feel the difference when we soothe it. That's why massages feel good. That's why being hugged feels so good. We're basically stroking our inner cat or dog or baby and telling them, hey, baby, everything's okay. Stroke the baby and the baby calms down. So it's just a very, 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 very simple way of providing a somatic counter cue, counter conditioning to those signals of stress that are coming from our experience, our childhood, and our mind.
Amazing. Now you've got a website, EFTUniverse.com. Can people come learn from you or get certified? How does this work?
Yes, we have a large certification program. We have hundreds of certified practitioners. They are superbly trained. They go through a rigorous training. They work with other people. They take classroom style classes. They pass written tests. They get recertified every 3 years. So these are people who really know their stuff. And so we have those people who can help you. We also have over 100 trainings a year, done all over the world by our certified trainers. And again, these people who've been qualified to train by my organization. So we have training, we have live trainings. We also have a ton of free stuff. We have a free mini manual where you can learn EFT yourself. We also have a weight loss program, and that program actually is just fantastic. We found that people who tap for cravings for sugar, for cravings for sweets, for cravings for alcohol, all of those cravings rapidly diminish. And so we find people use EFT for cravings, for addictions, for weight loss, and all of that. I'll give you one website where you can get that plus eco meditation, and that one website is DawsonGift.com. So just my name, Dawson, DAWSON, gift.com. DawsonGift.com gives you the instructions for eco meditation, plus the EFT mini manual, plus a link to the classes, plus a link to all the practitioners. And that's the place to go for the whole package.
Wonderful. And if someone wants to become certified, do they have to, where do they travel? Like, is it, you said you have hundreds of trainings around the world, so they can find it locally, or do they,
Yes.
Can they learn from you? Do you personally teach this?
I teach a few, but we have certified trainers who train all over the world, and they're really good. So I'm a good trainer, but I also co-train with some of my other trainers sometimes, and I'm just aware that all of us are different. But like we have some trainers who are a lot funnier than I am. I'm fairly funny, and there's some who are hysterically funny. So I'm kind of the science guy, and I make sure you get a good, healthy dose of science when you're at my workshops. They all train in the science module as well, but some of them are more experiential. So you'll find a list of all the certified trainers on the website there, and they're all extremely good. They all have to get requalified every couple of years, and take one of our workshops, and you'll be in good hands.
Does someone have to already be a doctor or a licensed mental health counselor, or can a layperson come and take these trainings?
Yeah, we have tons of lay people. We have people who learn it for their teenage kids. They want to relate better to their teenage kids and not be triggered by their teenagers. So that's why they take a class. There are retirees who want to use it for their own health or the health of their loved ones. There are school teachers. A lot of school teachers get trained by us, guidance counselors. So people get trained in EFT for all kinds of reasons other than medical professionals. That said, about half the people in the classes are either life coaches or licensed medical or mental health professionals, because many of these people now are, they've done what they can with traditional therapies, and they want something more. Or if they're in a system that maybe inhibits their ability to really be a healer, they want to recapture that ability to be a healer. And with EFT, it's wonderful because you work with somebody and you watch their limitations just fall away, and it's just beautiful to, like that Vietnam veteran I mentioned, to work with somebody like that, or work with, say, a young woman who's struggling with in her marriage. There was one woman I worked with in a workshop, and she was thinking of getting divorced from her husband. She was in her late 20s, and she said that the real problem was he wasn't pulling his weight around the house. He wasn't really doing his share of the housework. And so I asked her about her childhood, and it turned out that when she was a little girl, she grew up in Bulgaria, and she would watch her dad and her mom and her dad sat around drinking beer and smoking cigarettes with her uncles and did nothing, while her mom did all the housework, took care of the kids, and was really burdened with all of the work she had to do. So she had all this anger and resentment toward men, toward her dad, toward her uncles. We tapped on all that stuff. And then after we tapped on that, I said, "Now, tell me again about your husband and the housework." And she burst into tears, and she said, "I'm so hard on him. He tries so much to please me, and it's never enough for me. And I'm threatening my own marriage by being so harsh toward him." And she realized that the problem wasn't him, it was her. She was projecting her internal unhealed childhood material out onto her husband, trying to fix him, trying to change him, and threatening her marriage and thinking about getting a divorce. So we have all these people who have these radical breakthroughs. And this is not a long session. This is probably a 10, 12-minute session. And suddenly there's this dramatic shift, not just in her emotions, but in her future in terms of having a happy marriage. So we watch these breakthroughs. I mean, you can't imagine actually being in a workshop, or we do a bunch of online programs too, like for weight loss, and seeing people have this happen to people. It's just you sit there if you're working with them and tap with them. You don't have to do much as a practitioner. You just sit there and tap, and and they have these astonishing breakthroughs and cognitive shifts in the whole way they see the world. The whole perspective on the story they make of their lives changes and becomes much more positive. So I'm just on fire with bringing this to as many people as possible. I reach about 10 million people a year through broadcasts, through radio shows, through live workshops, through live streaming, all kinds of different ways. And I'm just determined to bring it to as many people as I possibly can.
I am there with you. I'm really excited to get this information out there as well. Up ahead in our interview, Dawson shares how EFT can help children and a story about how EFT helped a woman with dementia. But first, I have some really exciting news I need to share with you. Hello, True Health Seekers. I hope you're enjoying this interview with Dawson. It is absolutely amazing what we are learning, and he's about to share some wonderful things. But first, I wanted to let you know that LearnTrueHealth.com, not only are we a wonderful podcast filled with amazing life-saving and life-changing holistic health information, I also have a membership for you. And if you have enjoyed any of my podcasts, you are absolutely going to fall in love with your membership. Right now, it is only $25 to join, and it provides you with so many amazing videos. I actually filmed with naturopathic physicians and other wonderful healthcare practitioners in the holistic field. There are 12 sections to your membership, including a holistic health coaching section and master webinar classes and Q&As with doctors, and a behind the scenes where we pull back the curtain and you learn from your favorite leading experts what they eat, what they do when they need more energy or to beat a cold or to beat a headache, what they do naturally. And so you can learn from those who are really living the holistic way, practicing what they preach. So please go and check out learntruehealth.com/join to see all the details about your membership and all the benefits that it provides for you. That's learntruehealth.com/join. It's only $25 right now, but that price is only for the next 100 members. And I know that I just opened the membership's doors for enrollment. I had opened them briefly about a year ago, and now they're opening again. And this is a special price for a very limited amount of people. And that's because I take the time to work with those in the membership. So go ahead and go to learntruehealth.com/join and make sure you grab your spot before this special is gone. I'd hate for you to miss it and then regret missing it when you hear about all the awesome content that is there for you. Now, one of the features of your membership you're going to love is that when you really are moved by one of the videos or one of the pieces of information, you actually, there's a share it now button, and you can share it you can send it to a friend or family member, and they're sent a secure link where they're given access to that piece of content for 3 days. And so you can use the membership to help yourself, and you can also use the membership to help those you love. Isn't that amazing? So go ahead and check out learntruehealth.com/join and support the Learn True Health podcast. What about children with ADHD or children with autism? Two totally different things, but does this work well if a child is autistic or if a child has issues with emotions?
Yeah, I'll tell you a cute story from our website. And again, on DawsonGift.com, there are over 5,000 stories from people who've written in and said, I used EFT for sports performance. I used EFT for money worries. I used EFT for anxiety disorder. I used EFT because I was diabetic. And they tell you their whole story. And one of the really touching ones to me was a mother who wrote in because her son had been diagnosed with autism. She lived in Brazil, and she tried various treatments with the therapist she'd been to, and he hadn't changed. He was 6 years old. And then she learned EFT, began to tap with him, and all of his behaviors just went away. But she was still in the mindset that he was autistic. So she moved to a new city in Brazil, and first thing she did was wanting to get good care for her son. And so she went to see the new doctor in her new town and had him examined. And the doctor came out of the waiting room and he said to her kind of angrily, "Who told you this child was autistic? There are no signs of autism in this child. This is why are you wasting my time? Blah 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 blah." He really kind of pissed off at her for for claiming that her clearly not autistic kid was. And so there are stories like this. Now, I don't want to make it sound as though EFT is panacea. It's not. There are stories of people who try it and get some improvement. Just for example, one story I tell in the EFT manual is about a woman whose mother had Alzheimer's disease. And so she was at home with her mother, taking care of her mother, while she and her brother split care of her mother. So she'd be with her mother part of the time. Her brother was with her mother part of the time. That was the way her mother had been taken care of for a few years. But her brother was traveling to Texas for a few days. And so whenever she'd see her mother, many times a day, her mother would say, "Where's Tommy? Tommy should be here. Where's Tommy?" And she'd say, "Mom, Tommy's in Texas." Then half an hour later, her mom was saying, "No, where's Tommy? Tommy isn't here." And it was driving this woman crazy because her mom kept on asking the same question. So she tapped with her mother. She did some tapping with her mother. And for the rest of the day, her mother would say, "Where's Tommy? Oh, yeah, Tommy's in Texas." So her mom was remembering better after that. Doesn't mean EFT is a cure for Alzheimer's, no, but it's a cure for stress. And so there's a level of stress that's going on that's affecting us. And reduce our stress, everything tends to improve. So there are some things that improve a lot with EFT. Phobias, it's very rare for a phobia to need more than one treatment with EFT. There are several randomized controlled trials of EFT for phobias. Usually one session, phobia's gone. PTSD, it's extremely effective for PTSD, for anxiety and for depression. But, for example, for OCD, some people with OCD recover completely with EFT. Others, it makes no difference at all. So, again, try it. The worst that can happen is your stress will go away. And the best that can happen is your problem will go away. And you'll feel much more sense of peace in your life.
I love it. And just for those who've never heard of EFT before, are there any side effects?
Happiness. Laughter. Better relationships. Oh, it's so cool. I was doing a teleclass for our weight loss group recently, and this one woman said, "I learned EFT and I've lost 54 pounds, and it was so nice that she'd lost all the weight." And she just lost the weight not by doing anything. She was just tap whenever she had a craving. So she would have these cravings for Reese's peanut butter cups, and so after learning to tap, she'd hold a cup, Reese's peanut butter cup in her hand, do the tapping, and wouldn't want to eat it anymore. In fact, she became quite averse toward them. So she wasn't eating the stuff that was making her fat. So she just, without actually doing anything, just tapped and lost 54 pounds. But she was saying, my skin's cleared up. I'm having a way better relationship with my 3 teenage sons. I'm having a much better sex life with my husband. My husband and I are getting along much better. It's funny, he's not tapping at all, and he is a much nicer guy. So yeah, there are lots of side effects, and I strongly recommend them all.
Wonderful. Dawson, this has been so enlightening. I really hope my listeners check out your websites. All the links are going to be in the show notes of today's episode, EFTUniverse.com and DawsonGift.com. And now there's this one for your book, YourGeniusGenie.com.
Yeah, that's all with inside DawsonGift.com.
Okay, great. Excellent. Terrific. And then tell us a little bit about your institution that you founded, the National Institution for Integrative Healthcare.
Yeah, right. And we do two things. One thing we do is we do research, and we've helped do a lot of clinical trials of EFT and also meditation. And the second thing we do is called the Veteran Stress Project. And we put veterans who have PTSD together with life coaches and psychotherapists who use EFT or other energy methods to help them. And so we've done some clinical trials that way, but we've now actually, over the course of the last 10 years this project has been going, we've actually helped over 20,000 veterans and their family members with PTSD to recover, all free of charge. So that's called the Veteran Stress Project, and that's a wonderful, wonderful thing that we've been doing. We more and more, too, we're engaging the Veterans Administration and government agencies in offering EFT, but all of that change at the official level is slow and takes time. So to speed things along, we started our own organization 10 years ago called the Stress Project, and that's how we get EFT to veterans.
Yeah, I just jumped over to your website, the Veteran Stress Project, which is stressproject.org. And I'm looking at it. Lots of really great info. I personally know some veterans with PTSD. I was at a conference a few years ago, and someone at the conference thought it would be funny to bring a blowhorn, and because there's some music in between the speakers, and so there's lots of music going on, lots of flashing lights. It was a big stage, and then there's this guy hitting a blowhorn, and what he didn't know was that there were several veterans at that convention, and one of them had a complete PSD meltdown out in the hallway. My husband and I were walking back to our hotel room to grab something, and we saw him alone having a complete meltdown, and we stayed with him until another friend who actually had a service dog came up to him, and then we found his friends, and we were able to calm him down. But watching him go through his experience, it's really terrifying when someone is in a PSD moment. And you just want to give him a hug and just tell him it's going to be okay. And my heart just cried for him, because he was back there seeing, and he could not verbalize what he saw. The carnage, the murder, the destruction. He could not verbalize. He was a whimpering in a mass, and it was so heartbreaking. And so many of our servicemen and women are coming back with this, and there's just not adequate help for them. And so the fact that you have put together this project to help veterans, I'm so excited for what you are doing, because if we can get this information out there, I'm definitely gonna be sharing it with my friends, and they're all a community of veterans that like PSD community. So we're gonna start spreading the word. Listeners, please share stressproject.org. Let's get this information out there. The fact that there is a way that we can naturally help someone get to the root cause and release and finally let go of and heal on that emotional and mental level is so inspiring. We got to get this information out there. And of course, the pharmaceutical mainstream media is funded by the pharmaceutical industry, and so of course they're not motivated to get this information out there. It's not like they're monsters. It's just they're funded. How they keep the lights on is they get the big pharma to pay the bills, right, through advertisement. And so big pharma will say to them, no, I don't want you pushing anything that would say that people could heal easily. We want them on our PSD drugs, right? We want them on our medications. And so there's this sort of movement in the mainstream media to make people think that we're victims, that we are helpless, that we need a drug and we need a doctor and we can't heal, and we need someone else of authority to control our body. And so that's the big message that we've been brainwashed to believe, right? So we need to take back our health and go take EFT classes, go take meditation class, or go learn how to eat, how to shift our lifestyle so that we can prevent illness and that we can heal emotionally, mentally, physically, and spiritually. And then turn around after we put the oxygen mask on ourselves and help as many people as possible, right? And so, yes, so together we're going to do that. And I really believe that my wonderful listeners are going to start sharing this information. Dawson Church, it's been amazing having you on the show. Love to have you back. You're welcome anytime to share more and teach us more. It has been such a pleasure.
Ashley, I love your spirit. I love your energy, and the fact that you and your husband had comforted that vet. That's the human interaction that we all need. We need love. And this is all in the final analysis about love. It's about loving ourselves, about loving people around us, about loving our lives, loving our bodies, and infusing ourselves with outrageous amounts of love in every way. Thank you so much for sitting with that veteran and being there for him, because it's that's love, and we need to have that in every dimension of our lives for everyone and also for ourselves, and remove all the obstacles to that so that we can all experience that love freely. So thank you for everything you're doing to share and show that love.
And thank you for what you're doing. I'm really inspired by it, and I'm excited to see where you take this on your journey. Thank you.
Bless you. Thanks again.
Enjoy what you heard today on your episode of the Learn True Health podcast. Did something move you, inspire you? Did you get great information that's going to change your life? Awesome. That's exactly what I'm here to do, is to help you gain your health back. Please turn around and share this. If this is something that's helped you in any way, share this with those you love. Love the Learn True Health podcast and want to support us? Awesome. You can go to takeyoursupplements.com and you can support us that way. You'll get access to amazing supplements that are just really great quality for a great price. And there'll be someone on the other end of the line to help you pick out your supplements that are right for you. That's takeyoursupplements.com. Or join our membership, learntruehealth.com/join. That's another great way to support our podcast, support our movement, and you'll be supporting yourself. Gain more information, wonderful videos, wonderful trainings, and you'll also be able to share those with those you love as well. So go to learntruehealth.com/join. Want something fun for free? Go to learntruehealth.com, and right there on the front page, you'll see where you can get our free cookbook. I spent a lot of time making it, and it was so much fun. It's really delicious, healthy recipes. And you can also get our 7-day doctor course. Right there, it's 7 days of naturopathic videos sent right to your inbox, and you can learn from top naturopaths on how to gain health naturally. So that's takeyoursupplements.com for wonderful supplements. learntruehealth.com/join to join our awesome membership, which is only open for a limited time. You can get our free healthy cookbook, and you can also get for free 7 days of wonderful naturopathic videos sent to you. Just go to learntruehealth.com and you'll see it right there on the front page. Thank you so much for being a listener, and thank you for sharing and helping others. Let's spread this information and turn this ripple into a tidal wave.